So now we're on to rule number 5, which is really building larger teams for some meetings. And let me emphasize that before I talk about the problem itself. This is not a solution for every meeting. It's not always a good idea to bring more people into a meeting, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. For most decision-making meetings, you get beyond 5 to 7 people, and the science pretty much says you're getting too big, and it gets harder and harder to coalesce around a solution. So putting that out there, but there are some problems that happen and some things that need a larger team. So for example, I got reached out to by a large manufacturing firm, and their leadership team had come together to work towards generating some potential solutions to a problem that they were dealing with a product that had been designed in a way that wasn't working the way they wanted it to. And I can't say more. But what they had done is that they had brought their team together and had basically engaged in a brainstorming process to identify, potential solutions to the problem. And they contacted me because they had done that 2 or 3 times, and they had yet to find something that would solve their problem. And they decided that maybe they have a problem with their meetings. Maybe their meetings themselves are not designed well, and that sort of thing. And so I actually came and said, let me observe your meeting and see how you're doing it. Now, in the process, I noticed a few things relative to brainstorming that could be tweaked and improved and so forth. And there's processes for that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But the problem wasn't that they weren't brainstorming effectively. It was that they didn't have enough diverse and different ideas. It was that they didn't have the right team and enough team members to diversify the types of ideas that were being generated. And so the science is pretty clear on this. If your purpose includes idea generation, brainstorming, or similar types of tasks, the idea of crowdsourcing is actually really a good idea. Enlarge your team, include more people, include people from different backgrounds. This can be people that obviously look differently, but also just different educational backgrounds, different training, different areas within, in this particular case that I was talking about, different areas within their large manufacturing company, to bring in ideas that smaller team would never generate, right? If your purpose is decision making, or it's a complex team process, okay, other complex things are going on there, it's actually better to keep your team small, okay? And there's good science about that. And part of that is the larger your team gets, the more you're going to generate ideas. Well, if you have a larger team, that means you need more time. And so the decision making may take a much longer period of time the larger your team gets, because you're having to talk about more things, which is not necessarily a bad thing in all cases. But again, smaller is better for more complex decision making processes. Larger is better for that initial, okay, let's get the ideas out there. Let's get some potential solutions. Let's really consider the landscape. And then maybe at that point, you take that landscape and then you kind of pull your team back in and then proceed with a decision-making process, which with the smaller team makes a lot more sense. So that's what the science would say. The science would say bigger for these purposes, smaller for these other purposes.